Morena koutou, welcome to the very last day of winter. It's the 31st of August. Last day of winter means tomorrow is spring and it's a beautiful day as well. So I hope you can get outside a little bit after we've done our story time. That would be great. So today we are reading the story Super Kid. And then we are going to continue on with reading James and the Giant Peach as well. So first up, Super Kid. There's a boy who seems quite ordinary. He looks like me or you, but in secret he is Super Kid. There's nothing he can't do. There he is down there. Behind his glasses, X-ray eyes can spot a child in trouble. Then he changes in a flash to help them at the double. If bullies pinch your bubble gum as you go out to play, whoosh, Super Kid comes flying. Yes, he's here to save the day. He blows a giant bubble and the kids stick to its side. Then puff, he blows it in the air and off those bullies ride. When you're having tea at Auntie's, but it's all the food you hate, and Auntie says, "More broccoli," and piles it on your plate. That is a lot of broccoli. It's a good job I don't mind broccoli. Zap! Super Kid comes whizzing, and before your auntie sees, he eats the dreaded broccoli and horrid mushy peas. And he's putting lots of sauce on it as well. There's a great film on one evening that you really must not miss, but your mum says, "No more watching till you've tidied up all of this." Then Super Kid appears and wow, before you can say zoom, poor mum is almost fainting. Surely this can't be your room. But what if you're out with a friend and meet a pirate crew who says, "We're on a treasure hunt. There's room on board for you." But then they make you walk the plank. Yikes! In the churning sea, swim hungry, snapping sharks that laugh. Ha ha! We'll eat you for your tea. Splash! Super Kid can see your plight. He rescues you, then thwack! He sorts those evil pirates out and flies you safely back. So when you're with your friends at school, watch carefully what they do. You might just find that Super Kid is sitting next to you. That is a very cool story. All right, we are going to carry on with James and the Giant Peach. Yesterday, the peach, they managed to catch all the seagulls they needed, and the peach flew up into the air. And then the captain of a ship was watching, and all of his crew thought he was going crazy because he was saying, "Is a mammoth spider, a colossal grasshopper, an enormous centipede." But then the peach disappeared and they never saw it again. So chapter 24. But up on the peach itself, everyone was still happy and excited. "I wonder where we'll finish this time," the earthworm said. "Who cares?" they all answered. "Seagulls always go back to land sooner or later." Up and up they went, high above the highest clouds, the peach swaying gently from side to side as it floated. "Wouldn't it be a perfect time for a little music?" the ladybird said. "How about it, old grasshopper?" "With pleasure, dear lady," the old green grasshopper answered, bowing from his waist. "Oh, hooray, he's going to play for us," they cried. And immediately the whole company sat themselves down in the circle around the old green musician, and the concert began. From the moment that the first note was struck, the audience became completely spellbound. And as for James, never had he heard such beautiful music as this. In the garden at home on summer evenings, he had listened many times to the sound of grasshoppers chirping in the grass, and he had always liked the noise that they made. But this was a different kind of noise altogether. This was the real music, chords, harmonies, tunes, and all the rest of it. And what a wonderful instrument the old green grasshopper was playing. It was like a violin. It was almost exactly as though he were playing upon a violin. The bow of the violin, the part that moved, was his back leg. The strings of the violin, the part that made the sound, was the edge of his wing. He was using only the top of his back leg, the thigh, and he was stroking this up and down against the edge of his wing with incredible skill, sometimes slowly, sometimes fast, but always with the same easy flowing action. It was precisely the way a clever violinist would have used his bow, and the music came pouring out and filled the whole blue sky around them with magic melodies. When the first part was finished, everyone clapped madly, and Miss Spider stood up and shouted, "Bravo! Encore! Give us some more!" "Did you like that, James?" the old green grasshopper asked, smiling at the small boy. "Oh, I loved it," James answered. "It was beautiful. It was as though you had a real violin in your hands." "A real violin?" the old green grasshopper cried. "Good heavens, I like that, my dear boy. I am a real violin. It is part of my own body." "But do all grasshoppers play their music on violins the same as you do?" James asked. "No," he answered. "No, not at all. If you want to know, I happen to be a shorthorn grasshopper. I have two short feelers coming out of my head. Can you see them? Here they are. They are quite short, aren't they? That's why they call me a shorthorn. And we shorthorns are the only ones who play our music in the violin style using a bow. My longhorn relatives, the ones who have long curly feelers coming out of their heads, make their music simply by rubbing the edges of their top two wings together. They're not violinists, they are wing rubbers, and a rather inferior noise these wing rubbers produce too, if I may say so. It sounds more like a banjo or a fiddle." "How fascinating this all is," cried James. "And to think of, up till now, I had never even wondered how a grasshopper made his sounds." "My dear young fellow," the old green grasshopper said gently, "there are a whole lot of things in this world of ours that you haven't started wondering about yet. Where, for example, do you think I keep my ears?" "Your ears? Why, in your head, of course." Everyone burst out laughing. "You mean you don't even know that?" cried the centipede. "Try again," said the old green grasshopper, smiling at James. You can't possibly keep them anywhere else." "Oh, can't I?" "Well, I give up. Where do you keep them?" "Right here," the old green grasshopper said. "One on each side of my tummy." "It's not true," said James. "Of course it's true. What's so peculiar about that? You ought to keep them where you ought to see where my cousins, the crickets and katydids, keep theirs." "Where do they keep them?" "In their legs, one on each front leg, just below the knee." "You mean you didn't know that either?" the centipede said scornfully. "You're joking," James said. "Nobody could possibly have ears in his legs." "Why not?" Because it's ridiculous, that's why." "You know what I think is ridiculous?" the centipede said, grinning away as usual. "I don't mean to be rude, but I think it's ridiculous to have ears on the sides of one's head. Certainly looks ridiculous. You ought to take a peek in the mirror someday and see for yourself." "Pest!" cried the earthworm. "Why must you always be so rude and rambunctious to everyone? You ought to apologize to James right now." Chapter 25. James didn't want the earthworm and the centipede to get into another argument, so he said quickly to the earthworm, "Tell me, do you play any kind of music?" No, but I do other things, some of which are really quite extraordinary," the earthworm said, brightening. "Such as what?" "Well," the earthworm said, "next time you stand in a field or in a garden, look around you, and just remember this, that every grain of soil upon the surface of the land, every tiny little bit of soil that you can see, has actually passed through the body of an earthworm the last few years. Isn't that wonderful?" "It's not possible." "My dear boy, it's a fact." "You mean you actually swallow soil?" "Like mad," the earthworm said proudly, "in one end and out the other." "But what's the point?" "What do you mean, what's the point?" "Why do you do it?" asked James. "We do it for the farmers. It makes the soil nice and light and crumbly so that things will grow well in it. If you really want to know, the farmers couldn't do without us. We are essential. We are vital. So it is only natural that the farmer should love us. He loves us even more, I believe, than he loves the ladybird." "The ladybird," said James, turning to look at her. "Do they love you too?" I'm told that they do, the ladybird answered, modestly blushing all over. In fact, I understand that in some places the farmers love us so much that they go out and buy live ladybirds by the sackful and take them home and set them free in their fields. They're very pleased when they have lots of ladybirds in their fields. But why? James asked. Because we gobble up all the nasty little insects that are gobbling up all the farmers' crops. It helps enormously. And we ourselves don't charge a penny for our services. I think you're wonderful, James told her. Can I ask you one special question? Please do. Well, is it really true that I can tell how old a ladybird is by counting her spots? Oh no, that's just a children's story, the ladybird said. We never change our spots. Some of us, of course, are born with more spots than others, but we never change them. The number of spots that a ladybird has is simply a way of showing which branch of the family you belong to. I, for example, as you can see for yourself, am a 9-spotted ladybird. I'm very lucky. It's a fine thing to be. It is indeed, said James, gazing at the beautiful scarlet shell with the 9 black spots on it. On the other hand, the ladybird went on, some of my less fortunate relatives have no more than 2 spots altogether on their shells. Can you imagine that? They're called 2-spotted ladybirds and very common and ill-mannered they are. I regret to say, and then of course you have the 5-spotted ladybirds as well, and they're much nicer than the 2-spotted ones, although I do find them a trifle too saucy for my taste. But they are all of them loved, said James. Yes, the ladybird answered quietly. They are all of them are loved. It seems like that everyone around here is loved, said James. How nice this is. Not me, cried the centipede happily. I'm a pest and I'm proud of it. Oh, I'm such a shocking, dreadful pest. Hear, hear, the earthworm said. What about you, Miss Spider? Asked James. Aren't you also much loved in the world? Alas, no, Miss Spider answered, sighing long and loud. I'm not loved at all, and yet I do nothing but good all day long. I catch flies and mosquitoes in my webs, and I'm a decent person. I know you are, said James. It's very unfair the way we spiders are treated. Miss Spider went on. Why, only last week, your own horrible Aunt Sponge flushed my poor dear father down the plug hole in the bathtub. Oh, how awful, cried James. I watched the whole thing from the corner up in the ceiling. The spider murmured, it was ghastly. I never saw him again. A large tear rolled down her cheek and fell with a splash on the floor. But is it not very unlucky to kill a spider? James inquired, looking around at others. Of course it's unlucky to kill a spider, shouted the centipede. It's about the unluckiest thing anyone can do. Look, what happened to Aunt Sponge after she'd done that bump? We all felt it, didn't we, as the peach went over her? Oh, what a lovely bump that must have been for you, Miss Spider. It was very satisfactory, Miss Spider answered. Will you sing us a song about it, please? So the centipede did. And Sponge was terribly fat and tremendously flabby at that. Her tummy and waist were as soggy as paste. It was worse on a place when she sat. So she said, I must make myself flat. I must make myself sleek as a cat. I shall do without dinner to make myself thinner. But along came the peach, oh, the beautiful peach, and made her far thinner than that. That was very nice, Miss Spider said. Now sing about Aunt Spiker. With pleasure, the centipede answered, grinning. Aunt Spiker was thin as a wire and dry as a bone, only drier. And she was so long and thin, if you carried her in, you could use her for poking the fire. I must do something quickly, she frowned. I want fat, I want pound upon pound. I must eat lots and lots of marshmallows and chocks till I start bulging out all around. Ah, yes, she announced, I have sworn that I'll alter my figure by dawn, cried the peach with a snigger. I'll alter your figure, and ironed her out on the lawn. Everybody clapped and called out for more songs from the centipede, who once launched into his favorite song of all. Once upon a time when pigs were swine and monkeys chewed tobacco and hens took snuff to make themselves tough, the ducks said quack, quack, quacko, and porcupines drank fiery wines and goats ate tapioca, and old Mother Hubbard got stuck in a... Look out, centipede, look out! I wonder what's happened to the centipede. I'm going to read the first little bit of the chapter. The centipede, who had begun dancing wildly around the deck during his song, had suddenly gone too close to the downward curving edge of the peach, and for 3 awful seconds he stood teetering on the brink, swinging his leg frantically in circles in the effort to stop from falling over backwards into space. But before anyone could reach him, down he went. Oh my goodness, what's happened to the centipede? We will find out tomorrow when we do our next story time. Hey, thanks for joining us for story time today. Great to have you all on. Look after yourselves today. Remember to be kind for your parents and your whānau at home, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Ka kite anō.